It's always been about the people. A lot of my life has been just trying to empower people from all walks of life. Having had worked with the homeless population over the years, worked for public housing for nearly 25 years, and of course worked with neighborhoods for about 20, 30 years. And so it's kind of a lot of my life. And then being a pastor of people from all backgrounds. I mean, it's just who I am in a nutshell. Well, I think the major challenge is economic parity. As we look at the city in terms of its dollars and how those dollars are being spent, I think it's disingenuous for the city, for citizens to pay taxes and not have access to capital. And so I just believe that one of the biggest challenges we have is making sure that everyone gets to the plate. Now, of course, I wrote the HUE policy, which is the historical underutilized business policy for the city of Birmingham that passed unanimously. I also commissioned the disparity study when I chaired economic development, and we got it passed unanimously. And so it's really predicated on a mayor who would implement that. And of course, there are other dynamics with respect to that. But even with the airport, when I served as vice president over there, we decided that we would not engage in a modernization program to the tune of $201 million. But I can guarantee you $62 million went to minority companies, disadvantaged business enterprise. And so that's the highest minority participation in the history of Birmingham. I think we're missing something when our schools are not as diverse as it should be in terms of you know the, education is the great equalizer, if you will, in any society. That's where a lot of folk come here to get an education so they can go back and to their respective countries or hamlets or whatever to make a difference. And certainly we should be in the same posture. I just believe that we're missing out on intellectual and cultural exchanges with respect to our children. Our schools are really more segregated than they were in the 60s. I grew up in the 60s, and I remember having white classmates from kindergarten up until I grew up in Gaston, Alabama, but remember having integrated kind of situation from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, and so and our schools are segregated, and we have some best practices, but it's not merely enough. I think all of our schools should be the best school, and so until that happens, I've served on the policy committee where I've tried to institute legislation that would bring some parity when it comes to education as well. I sponsor, for the last 4 years, a scholarship program for college-bound students where we've given $27,000 to college-bound students. That's not in my scope of work, but it is in my scope of what I need to be doing to make a difference in my community. Well, it is the disparity study. The current mayor said that the empirical data is not substantial, sustaining rather, and the empirical data are going to change from day to day because it's based on goods and services. And so when we look at the dollars being spent by the city, generally we look at the construction dollars, but there's goods and services. How many pens do you buy? How much paper do you buy? How much Clorox do you buy? And you can't tell me there aren't any minority, vendors out there who could very well provide those kinds of needs to the city. And so it would be for a mayor, to implement the disparity study that we passed, because even if you say the data is not current, the recommendations are, because and somebody said, well, the man said we're gonna get us sued. Well, that's what you want to do. You really want to go to court quite frankly, because then it would show the dichotomy and what is and what should be and what is expected, based on current law. I have always been under the tenet that you need Christian folk in government. I am a pastor. I pastor a small church in Adamsville, Alabama, Mount Carmel CME Church. Been in the ministry now as a pastor for a little more than 10 years. So I'm committed to that, and I just believe that the Lord need to show up at City Council too. Matter of fact, you find yourself praying quite often when you're going, because you don't know all the shenanigans that goes on. And see, the public doesn't get a chance to see that. But there are a lot of things, the devil come to steal, kill, and destroy. And he doesn't give us a bye, just because you go to City Hall, just because you go down the street, he's out there. And but I think we have to have folk who understand the power of God and his movement and what we ought to do. I think he holds us accountable, that we should leave it better than we found it, and that we should always put people before ourselves.